Kia ora, karagiang ko toko ingoa. Welcome. I'm in Kirikiriroa today, Hamilton. We're an international bunch, actually. I did think we should have really pitched this as an international speaker because Zibby is coming to us from Scotland. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
that, should I? From Scotland. And for her, it is 1:15 a.m. this morning. So that's
I know.
crazy, Zibby.
That is dedication and commitment, but here I am,
And
ready to.
you've got the accent to go with it.
I know I've got the accent to
Hmm.
match, so yeah, very
I
excited to be here.
I'm at my mother's at the moment, staying with her for a couple of days while working in Hamilton, and she watches all these TV programs around doctors and nurses and emergencies things. And one of her favourites is the Shetland, like what happens on the Shetland Islands, and they speak like
Oh,
you.
oh, oh gosh, no. I don't think
No,
the Shetland. I don't even know what the Shetlanders are called, but they're quite they've got quite an accent
I
that's
bet.
probably even more challenging than a West Coast accent to understand.
And also Kia ora Eden, who's our chair of our acting chair. I'll call you that, of our Wellington
Yeah.
team. Great to see you.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Right. Well, we're going to get started. I'm just going to run a poll because just to get people to check some things out. We thought we'd do this initial poll. You should be able to see that now, which says, when was the last time you negotiated a pay rise? And there's the choices there in the last 6 months, in the last year, not since I took this job. I've never negotiated, which seems to be the most popular one at the moment.
Mm.
So we can see it popping up. So 4 of you have voted so far. So unfortunately, as a panelist, we can't vote in this one. So it's the way it works. This is just really to get you going, give you something to do while people are coming in. It would let you know that this is being recorded. So if you find it of value, you'll be able to go back, but you'll also be able to share it with others as well. And we know how these work, that people come in at all sorts of times during the session. And let's just end that poll and see what the results are. So you should be able to see that 60% of you have never negotiated. So this is all new stuff for you today. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
pretty
awesome.
typical. Yeah, and that's pretty typical, not since I took this job. You know, as we know, often the way to get a pay rise is to leave an organization and go to somewhere else and then come back again. Anyway, we're going to get started. It's awesome to have you here. I'm going to hand over to Zibby in a moment. She's going to take you through the presentation. At the end of that, Eden and Zibby are going to do the Q&A, and Eden will finish the session off. So that's kia ora from me, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Zibby.
Thank you, Craig. Can everyone see my screen? All good? Perfect. So yes, thank you for that introduction, Craig. I am Zibby, so I am a senior manager at Randstad, but also a Flint member, and yeah, I've been the chairperson in Wellington as well, and I've been involved in Flint, gosh, now for 5 or 6 years, and I've been at Randstad for 7 years. I thought I'll just do a brief intro on how I kind of got to, I guess, working at Randstad, and also living in New Zealand. As you'll hear, I am from Scotland, and that's where I'm at the moment. I actually negotiated with my employer to be able to come overseas for a bit of time, just because I've got lots of big life events happening for friends, as I'm a bridesmaid a good few times this summer. So that's why I'm over in Scotland. But yes, taking it back to starting at Randstad. I came to New Zealand 7 years ago looking for a job, and Randstad happened to have one. And from there, I started in a temp position and have worked my way into the senior manager role, where I recruit for business support and contact centre roles into government and commercial organisations. And I look after a team of 6 amazing consultants. And part of our job every day is doing negotiations, and that might be negotiating with our new clients when we bring on new business, but also on behalf of the talent and candidates that we're representing to negotiate their salary and their package. So yeah, I guess that's why I feel that I'm quite well suited to presenting this webinar today. I have also done this webinar and listened to it from one of my managers on a number of occasions. So yes, so I thought I would also just do a bit of some personal things to me. The top picture there is me and my manager Marvin, and that was when our team won Team of the Year, and I won Randstad New Zealand Leader of the Year last year. You've got a picture of me swimming, or two pictures of me swimming. I'm currently training for a triathlon in November, so I try and get into the ocean as much as possible. You've got a picture of me doing another venture that I like to do outside of work, which is Seeds to Feeds. I organise a local food festival where we're all about growing and educating our communities on the importance of local food. You've got myself, Eden and Jonathan Waker at the last Flint event that we held in person back in March, which was awesome. And then last but certainly not least are my two beautiful nieces that I'm able to spend lots of time with over the next few months, Isla and Maisie. So yeah, just a wee bit of a snapshot of my current, of my life and what makes me me. So what are we going to learn today when it comes to negotiation, and what are we hoping that you will achieve? Is just to find out exactly what negotiation is, when do we actually need it, and why is it important? To really hone in on those skills, because you'll use negotiation skills in all elements of your life, not just in your career, but we will kind of focus on that career aspect today. We're going to look at how negotiation actually works, how to prepare for negotiations, and of course, kind of giving it a lens of when there is more challenging times like we are going through at the moment in terms of the market. What else can you actually look at? If you can't get a salary negotiation, what else is actually on the table, and what can you look at as well other than salary? So, what is negotiation? Negotiation is a process between two or more parties, each with its own aims, needs, and viewpoints, seeking to discover a common ground and reach an agreement to settle a matter of mutual concern or resolve a conflict. So, negotiations will typically include some back and forth, and I think that back and forth is really important. So, when you do go into a negotiation, it's not just to have, one idea of what you want. It's actually to have multiple options, so that in that discussion of that back and forth, you can actually confidently say, okay, well, if I can't get this, can we look at this and this? So it's all around that preparation. Negotiations give both parties, and I think that's another really important thing, is to remember that it's both parties. It's not just about what you want. It's to achieve a sort of win-win for both parties that are involved. So yeah, it gives both parties a space to communicate constructively. And then negotiations matter most when there are a broad range of possible outcomes. So once again, just reiterating that there's not always just going to be one size fits all, or there's not always just going to be one outcome. There could be many different outcomes, and it's just to be open to that as well. So, quick facts about salary negotiation, and these are quite specific to salary, and I thought some of them were really quite interesting. So, a report found that 87% of professionals ages 25 to 35 who countered a salary or benefits offer. So this is when you're moving into a new role, when you've been presented with an offer and you've went back and said, actually, is there room for negotiation, or I'd actually be looking for this? 87% of those people actually got at least some of what they asked for. So they managed to negotiate upwards. 28% of people said that they are uncomfortable negotiating salary. So I think in that poll that we did, a lot of people said that they have never negotiated salary, and it's because people find it quite uncomfortable, or they don't think they've got the confidence. I know I've definitely been in that boat before, where yeah, you find it a bit awkward to sort of ask for something more than what you're on. So hopefully today you'll get a wee bit more confidence to do it. And I think that's the most important thing, is just to give it a go. And it could be, even if you're not going to go straight into that negotiation with your employer, it's just to get you to start thinking about maybe practicing it with a friend or practicing it with someone that you look up to, so that you can develop those skills. So when it comes to the next negotiation, you feel a bit more able to do so. You've got 31% of women report that they're uncomfortable negotiating salary. And then lastly, I actually really like this one, because I think this is one of the most important things that you can take out of today, is that 62% of workers will ask for a pay rise. And of those, however, only 31% will lock in further time to discuss it if they don't get what they're looking for. So what I'm saying is you may not always succeed when it comes to a negotiation due to various different factors, but don't just leave it there. Actually make sure that you're locking in further time with whoever you're doing that negotiation with to discuss it again. So say you ask for a pay rise now and they're unable to come to the table, or they're unable to do anything, is just saying, hey, let's look in 6 months, and get that in writing or put it in the diary now, so that you've actually got something to work towards, so that you're reopening that conversation. So why is negotiation important? There's many different reasons, but I guess it sets you up for future success. Personally, you'll be able to negotiate for yourself and be best prepared when you go into it. It means that you're going to be starting off on the right foot, and setting the standard of where you're going to be starting off at. It builds confidence, and it'll also set you up for future leadership roles as well. So you might actually be on the other end of a negotiation. So someone that you may be looking after may be coming to negotiate salary to you, and it's actually thinking about that a bit more, and what else you can offer if you can't do salary. There are many things that you can offer an employee when it comes to a package or a benefit within an organisation. So when are you going to use negotiation skills? There's so many different times that you'll use them, but I guess the main one that all jumps out is asking for a pay rise, changing your package, changing your working conditions. So like I said previously, I negotiated with my employer to be able to come overseas, and I didn't just go and say, hey Randstad, I want to go back to Scotland, and that's what's going to happen. I actually went with a plan before I had that conversation with my manager to show them how I would make that work. So I guess I said, I'm going to work in these hours. I'm going to make sure that I'm online in New Zealand time at this time. I'm not going to let the fact that I'm working overseas impact the inputs that I put into my job every day. I actually did a bit of preparation before I went into that conversation. When you also are asking for further development opportunities, that's another thing that I've done myself, and I know that Eden, who's on the call as well, she's also done. When you want extra training, or you want something that's going to enhance your career, but that will also benefit the organisation that you work for. And then I had to put it in there, but attending things like Flint events, you might want to negotiate with your employer to let you head off to an event that's going to, help you in your career, boost your confidence, boost your employment skills. So it's good to be able to negotiate those sorts of things as well. So when should you ask for either a pay rise or a change in your salary package? And that's what we'll focus on specifically here. So I guess ask for it before an anniversary of employment service, or at the end of the financial calendar year, or before the budget sign off. Ask when you can also justify your duties and responsibilities have changed or expanded, or you can demonstrate that you have kind of overachieved what is required of you. So once again, you want to have all of that evidence when you do go into a negotiation discussion. Also important to consider is like external factors and different landscapes. So as the company that you work for, are they performing at the moment? Are targets being achieved? Have you read the press and the company reports are showing that things are going really well? If you can gain insights and you're setting yourself up for a stronger conversation if you know that things are maybe going to be more favourable, and to negotiate that review. So yeah, stages of negotiation, and I like this little infographic, and Ian Scott, who has done this webinar before, he had shared this with me, but yes, I think there's many different stages, but I think this summarises it quite nicely. You know, you need to kind of know what you want. So that's the first thing, is putting it all on the table, is brainstorming yourself and having a think about what is it that's important to you and what do you actually want before you go into that discussion. Do your research, discuss with whomever it is that you have to discuss the review with, get the initial offer, compare it, weigh it up, request, if you want to negotiate something further, is do that request there and then, wait for it, wait for the agreement, and then obviously go into the agreement. And at the bottom corner of that infographic, it does show you something that will go into in a wee bit more depth. Is, you know, it's not just your salary that you can negotiate. There's lots of different things that you can negotiate, and I think that's particularly important when it might be more challenging to negotiate monetary benefits. It's thinking about what are the non-monetary things that you can actually look at. So thinking about that, know what you want. I think it's really important that you sort of take control at this stage. So throughout your career, I think it's really valuable to keep evaluating what you want, because it will change at different stages. So brainstorm what's really important to you and what you value when it comes to a package or remuneration. Is it maybe that the salary isn't as important, but you may really value extra training and development? Or is it that salary is not important, but you really do value flexibility or early starts and later finishes? There's so much to think about when it comes to negotiating a salary or a package, but I think the best place to start is for you to note everything down and take a bit of time to really evaluate what's important. And then I think also, when you do that evaluation and you've started to think what you would like to go into that negotiation with, is to have a backup plan and have multiple options of what you will accept or what's going to be acceptable to you when you go into that negotiation, and write it down, have it in front of you in a bit of paper or in a document, so that when you go into that discussion, you feel prepared and you know what you are willing to accept and what you won't, but you can actually refer back to it as well. So yeah, preparation is key when it comes to negotiations. So that infographic spoke a lot about research, and I think that's probably one of the most important things that you can do. You want to obviously put a lot of effort into preparing, you know, your skills and experience and market worth. So where can you get some of that information from? Speak to recruiters, so they can be a great source of knowledge for industry insights around salary, but not just salary. And I will show you some of Randstad's employer brand research shortly. But Randstad have research where we actually show what people are looking for when it comes to an employer. So is it salary and benefits? Is it greater work-life balance, greater training and development? So yeah, link in with recruiters. They're a great wealth of knowledge. Salary surveys, so you will be able to go online and have a look at lots of different platforms that offer sort of insight to what the sort of market rate is for your specific salary. Of course, job adverts. If you go into the likes of Seek, you will be able to see what jobs are being advertised for. So that will really help you, I guess, for both a new opportunity, but also if you're negotiating your existing salary. And if you feel that maybe you're not being remunerated accurately, you can say, I've actually had a look at some of this data, and this is what the market's saying. I think it's very important to not just go into your one-on-one or your performance review and not mentioning that you want to bring up a salary review. Give the person that you're discussing that with some advance warning that you are intending to sort of negotiate that, because it just means that you have sort of given both parties the opportunity to prepare for that discussion, and you'll more than likely find it be more successful if more people can be prepared going into it. Another one here is to be aware of the state of the company. So going back to that sort of market intel, is the company that you work for doing particularly well? Is it a really challenging landscape? Is it the right time to ask for a pay rise, or is it the right time to negotiate specific things? You've just got to be a bit aware and savvy. And I'm not saying that to sort of put you off. I think it can also be to think about, if I can't get, a pay rise, what else can I get that, isn't necessarily going to cost the business a monetary value. So just be aware of what's going on in the industry, or the state of the market at the moment. Anticipate objections. So don't just go in there thinking that everything's going to go plain sailing. It's okay if it doesn't, and please do expect someone to say, well, we can't do this, but we can do this, or having that open dialogue. Know your demands. I think that goes back to knowing what you want. What is the target? What do you really, what are you shooting for? But what will you actually accept? So it's just having a variation of your wants within that negotiation. And then prepare examples of your value. So I'm a people leader, so I actually do get people in my team. We do have quarterly performance discussions, and I get them to give examples in each of those discussions, and just continue to build up a bank of examples of when they've demonstrated the competencies of the job, or going over and above. So I think for anybody in any career, it's really important to do that, because it not only will help you in negotiation discussions, it's actually going to help you when you go for your next interview, that you've got a sort of bank of examples, because you're always going to be asked, can you tell me about a time, or when have you been an overachiever, or something like that. So just continue to do that throughout your career. It's something that I've always been told to do, and still continue to do as well. And then last but not least, when it comes to preparation, as I mentioned, is practice with a friend or a partner or a coach. I know I really appreciate practicing things before I do it. Like this, I've practiced a good few times, because preparation for me is key, and I don't like not feeling prepared. But the same goes with something that you're not familiar with. And like many people have said, they've never asked for a pay rise, or they've never negotiated part of their salary or their package. So don't just go and do it first without even practicing. Take some time to prepare with someone that you know and that you trust, that can, and also seek feedback. What do they think? What could you have done better? And just review that as well. So speak with the decision maker. I think that kind of goes without saying, but also just double check. Start with your line manager, and then if they're not the right person, or if they should be asking someone else to come along, also that's fine, and make sure they're doing it. So open the discussion, pick your time. You want to make sure that you're, as I said, given lots of advance warning that you're going to go into that meeting, so that everyone can be prepared. So when you're in the discussion, you want to start with sort of an opening bid, the anchor. What is it that you are wanting to discuss, and what is it that you are seeking when it comes to that negotiation? Things will vary. Are you going for a new job? It's not the job that you're in at the moment. So that might look a wee bit different. Is it you're renegotiating your current situation? I think if that is the case, then why are you renegotiating? Is it that you haven't had a pay rise in a number of years, or you haven't had a change? Is it that your situation has changed and you need something different to happen? Do you have targets agreed? Are you meeting those targets? Is that why you're asking for a pay rise? How long has your boss been in the role? That's also going to be something that you would need to think about. Context. Do they know where you were performing before versus where you're performing now? Do you have to bring them up to speed with evidence that you know? And how stable is the team? And have there been any other events that you do need to consider before you go into a negotiation discussion? And when you're in there, it's important to ask questions. Don't make demands. Negotiation is not blackmail. And I think a lot of us can probably imagine someone saying, well, if I don't get this, I'm going to do this. And does that really ever get anybody anywhere? Probably not. So you're always better to just go in and have a discussion and see what's on, what they can come to the party with. You want to listen to what they're saying. Don't talk over people. Just act in good faith. Where is the win-win? As I've said, a negotiation is for both parties to come to an agreement. It's not just for one person to get everything. It should be a win-win. And of course, be confident and smile, and confidence will come with the more and more times that you practice. So useful help opening phrases when it comes to negotiating. when you're in there, I just thought I'd throw some of these, and I'll share the slides in the recording with you. But you could say things like, it's been X amount of time since I've had my last pay review. Based on my increased responsibilities and average salary, I'd like to request a raise to this amount, and be really clear with what that figure is. It's easier to do that than supply a range, because then it can be quite blurry. Definitely just say the figure that you have in mind. Another way you can sort of start that conversation, if you're going into a new position or a new team: I'm excited at the prospect of coming on board and getting to know the team, and then go into what I would like is X, Y, or Z. Is there any flexibility in the compensation package? Another one for a new role. It just opens up. I've got a friend, and I do admire her greatly. She negotiates on every salary that she's offered. And even if it's only $1 or $2, she's an hourly rate contractor, she always manages to get something a little bit more. And she's super, because she always does it, she doesn't think twice. She doesn't have that hesitation. She just says, hey, what about, they've offered me 120 an hour. What about 122 an hour? And every little helps. And then the last one: thank you for the offer. If you can move to this desired salary, I'd be happy to accept the role. So I think that one's really good, because you're actually showing them, if you do this, I will do this. It's another sort of win-win for both parties. Very, very important is mindset and feeling prepared and ready to go into that conversation. So very straightforward, but I think we can all say that it's important for any, big conversation you're going to have, is to be well rested, well fed. Make sure you're on time and you're not sort of running about and being flustered before you go into that conversation. There's nothing worse. I know that I find it really annoying whenever I'm late for anything, and certainly going into quite a big conversation, I'd want to make sure that I'm giving myself plenty of time. I'm feeling positive. What is it you do before a big meeting that psychs you up? Is it going for a spin around the block before you do that? Is it just remaining really calm? Just make sure that you're setting yourself up for what you would usually want. Clear-headed, that confidence piece. So once again, practicing leaving emotions and ego at the door. I think that's really, really important, because it shouldn't just be all about the emotional side of things, or I feel I should get this. It's actually being open to that discussion. If you're doing it virtually, is everything connected? Is your internet connection strong? And have you checked your Zoom background or your Zoom name? Everything like that, just so that you're still, displaying that level of professionalism when you go into those discussions. So, I really like this one. The biggest salary negotiation mistake is not negotiating at all. Many studies have shown that people who don't negotiate salary, and that's any amount of salary at any stage of their career, will be missing out on thousands, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of their working life. So, I think it's super important to just ask at this stage, or get prepared to ask for increments of salary increase or changes to your package to benefit yourself, but that will also benefit the organisation, because I guess if you feel valued, you're probably more likely to stick around as well. Another study also found that 87% of young professionals who negotiated salaries received some of what they asked for. So I think I had that stat earlier, but I do like that one. It's just showing that the majority of people that ask for something are going to get something brought to the table. So why not ask? So yes, what about the current challenging climate? We know that the job market is quite challenging at the moment. So that might make you a bit less inclined to go to ask for negotiation on salary. But there are other things that you can think about when it comes to negotiating with your employer. Think about, for you, what's a short-term acceptable position? How long are you willing to wait for something? What can you ask your employer for in terms of timelines? What's the greater good? Is it just not a good time to ask for that? Or is it not a good, or is it not a good time to ask for a salary review, but you could ask for something else that's non-monetary? What impacts is the business currently facing? What are the alternatives if you don't negotiate? And then can you set a deadline, a renegotiation point, and what else is on the table? So with that, I thought it would be good to kind of go through employment drivers. So other than salary and benefits, what can you actually look at? And what I've included here is Randstad complete research every year. So this is our 2023 research, and this month actually we will be releasing the 24 research. But here's some sort of these are the main drivers that people look for in New Zealand. So work-life balance is the number one driver when looking for an employer. So work-life balance, as we know, can mean a lot of different things. It's, different flexible working times. Is it having access to different benefits when it comes to training, benefits around childcare, healthcare? Work-life balance actually doesn't just mean what we think, like, being able to go to work and then just go home and chill out. It can mean a lot of different things to different people. Secondly is attractive salary and benefits. Third, good training. Fourth, job security. And fifth is strong management. So non-monetary benefits are important for employees in New Zealand. So 76% consider this a really important aspect of evaluating a potential employer, and it's actually almost on par with monetary benefits. So I think it just shows you that as much as monetary benefits are still higher and up there, people do place strong importance on things that are non-monetary. So if a pay rise isn't an option, non-monetary benefits could hold the key. So what are non-monetary benefits, and what are some of those things that you could be looking at negotiating with your employer? You've got flexible start and finish times, working reduced days or condensed hours across reduced days, employee wellness programs, is that gym, health food snacks at work, mental health and mindfulness programs are becoming more and more important. You've got professional development and training. So I think that's a great one to, I've went to my employer before and said, hey, look, I'm really interested in completing a micro credential. I've been accepted onto the course. This will involve 1.5 hours of time every 2 weeks over the course of 8 weeks. And I said, this will benefit me because I will pass that knowledge onto the team, or I'm upskilling in a certain area. So it's always about going back to your employer and stating what the benefits will be to not just you, but to the organisation as well. Having your birthday day off, and then, reduced hours, awards and recognition, mentoring opportunities, and then experiential rewards as well, and dedicated time to work on personal projects. So there's lots of things you can look at. I've got another sort of anecdote of someone else in my work who went to do a master's, and they negotiated with their employer that they needed to start and finish a wee bit earlier and later on certain days so that they could attend lectures. But they also said that they would make up that time in other areas, or they were just flexible with what they would do as well. So I think that's really important things to consider. And just to summarise, what is on the table when it comes to negotiation? Is it work-life balance, flexibility, holidays, increasing KiwiSaver? That is a monetary one. Training and development, payment for professional memberships, car allowances or a parking space, cell phone, gym membership, or healthcare. So there's lots of things to consider other than just salary. Just some basic tips. So don't overstretch what you're pitching for. It's really better to state a clear number rather than a range if you are pitching for a salary. It's just much cleaner. So that's what I would always recommend. Be excited, enthusiastic, not desperate. I think you're always going to go better into a conversation if you show how much you love working there and you're positive about that organisation, rather than sort of like, well, if I don't get this, that's it sort of thing. Harness the power of silence. I know me especially can find silence awkward, but actually all a silence is someone thinking about things, and usually it could be a good thing because they're thinking about a response, which will hopefully be opening up that negotiation. Don't lie. So don't make up things that you've done and you haven't done them, because people will find out. And then, last but probably one of the most important is don't let your emotions drive your behaviour. It can just get messy, and more than likely you're not going to end up with the outcome you were hoping for. So you have managed to reach a win-win agreement. You've went through the negotiation. What is important to do next is get it in writing, and I think documenting things is super important when it comes to negotiation. yeah, when you've got it, get it in writing, review it, and then make sure it's sort of put into a contract if that needs to be, or you keep that document safe so that you can refer back to it if required. However, we all know that negotiations might not always go to plan. So if you have had no joy, what do you do next? Do you just walk away? Is it time to walk away? Is it just not the right time to negotiate? Are you going to replan your strategy so that you know the next time that you go in, reflect back on it, what could you've done differently? And if you're speaking with your leader, 100% ask for feedback, because that's the only way that you're probably going to improve. Set new goals. So was it just, had you not really, were the goalposts not set at the right standard? So agree on your rewards, review what you learned, as I said, do more research, find out more facts that are going to help you when you go into that review, improve your performance. Is it that your performance actually wasn't quite where you thought it was and it needed to be elsewhere? Well, hopefully that negotiation has opened up and you now understand what needs to be done. Reset and recalibrate. And I think the most important one is, just because someone said no, don't shut the door on it there. Actually ask, when is it appropriate then for us to reopen this conversation so that we can review what I've done since then to still open up the negotiation. And I guess that is us. So in terms of my presentation, we can move to a bit of a Q&A. I hope that people do feel a bit more confident when it comes to negotiation. I know it can be daunting, but I think it's just about giving it a go. Practice does make perfect, and hopefully everybody will be feeling a bit more confident when it comes to negotiating. So yes, thank you.
Thanks very much, Zoe.
No problem.
I've got a couple of questions. We don't have any in the chat at the moment, but feel free to put them in the Q&A box if anyone does have questions. My first question is, what's your best tip for going into salary negotiations?
Gosh, I think there's so many, but I think it's just that preparation piece. It's just being transparent about, what you want, and also sticking to that. So don't, if you say what you want at the start and then don't keep changing the goalposts, because that can actually be really confusing. If somebody comes to the party with saying what you want, is then sort of sticking by it and accepting that, that it can leave a bad taste in your mouth. Many recruiters will see it time and time again when someone said yes, they'll accept an offer on that, but when it comes down to it, they push back and they want something else, and you have to go back and negotiate, and actually having so much back and forth can put a kind of bad taste in people's mouth. So I think just that preparation, being transparent, and ensure that you kind of stick with what you've said that you want, and you don't change the goalposts.
Awesome. And we've got a question from Sophie. Would you think it's realistic to ask for no pay increase, but to reduce your hours slightly and keep the pay the same?
I think we're seeing that come up more and more now. I think you're probably going to have to really show and demonstrate that you would still be able to have the same outputs or the same quality of your work. But I think we've seen sort of across the world that people are doing sort of reduced hours to and that equals the same amount of productivity. So I don't think it's not realistic to ask. I think if you don't, then you'll never know the answer. And that more and more companies are sort of exploring those ideas. So why not sort of pave the way and try and get your organisation to follow suit?
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you. Another one from me. What if your current employer, so imagine I'm looking for another job, what if my current employer makes a counter offer to keep me?
So this one is, it's, if you were just to even Google this question, you'll get the same answer across the board. And in recruitment, we see it time and time again. I think the stats, 80% of people that accept a counter offer will move within a year. So you're only kind of going to stick around for an extra year. So I think if you're getting a counter offer from your current employer, is just to go back to that, know what you want and why, and your motivations as to what's happened in your current role that's meant that you want to shift and move somewhere else or move on to a different organisation. And if you can truly say that whatever they're offering you, and usually it's going to be an extra 10k or something like that. If you can say that it was just salary and that's the only reason you wanted to move, then maybe it's going to work out. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a longer list of the motivators for you wanting to move. And that's going to happen again 12 months down the track when you're sort of thinking, oh, gosh, I'm still not happy here. So yeah, counter offers, I think, are something that a lot of employers will do, but it's just really for you to consider why you want to move in the first place.
Awesome, thank you. And a question from Tessa. If you're applying for your first full-time job, is it appropriate to negotiate salary?
Yeah, I think, like, remember, when you're negotiating salary, that is going to be the starting point for you. So I absolutely do not think that it's not the right time. I think just once again, it's all around preparation and that market intel. So link in with recruiters, go on to the job boards, use websites like Glassdoor and things like that that will show you the sort of average salary. Look, if you've been offered something that is a good offer, and absolutely then take it. But if you do feel that you have got more to bring, or you've got you're maybe not being paid the equitable salary for that role, is definitely go back with maybe some of those opening phrases was, hey, if you can actually come to this, I'll accept. So yeah, so I think it's definitely not a no. I think it's just knowing if it's the right time to, for sure.
Awesome, thanks, Zibby. And a couple more from me. What would you say are common mistakes employees make when they're negotiating?
I think it's just not having like the alternative to what, not having a backup or various options of what's going to be acceptable to you. Don't just go in thinking, okay, I want the 100k, and if I don't get it, that's it. A negotiation does involve back and forth. So maybe the employer will say, I can't give you 100k, but what I could do is give you 90k, and then in 6 months we'll have another review, and if you've met these targets, we can go to the 100k. So, and I think that's really important when it comes to negotiation, is if they say no now, is just saying, okay, well, if you say no now, can we re-explore this in 6 months' time?
Awesome.
So yeah,
cool.
I think I'm trying to think of some other ones. Yeah, I think that not locking up a follow-up, not preparing, demanding something without demonstrating the why. So if you just say, I want this, well, actually, why do you deserve that? Is it that you have outperformed what you said you were going to do, so you want to get that because you deserve it?
Cool. Last chance, anyone, to pop questions in the Q&A or the chat. We'll do one more from me and see if anyone pops anything in. So we talked a little bit about resources you can use to help with that preparation piece. And I was just wondering, who can you talk to for that preparation? What are the resources that you'd be looking at?
I think, internally, I think you've probably, a lot of organisations now do have sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Transparency on like salary. And also I think like my organisation has really clear pathways of like things you have to achieve to get to the next stage. So using those resources to then say, I like to do like a little review of myself when I'm going into those conversations to say, okay, here's all the things that it's my current role says I'm doing. If I'm doing that, then that gives me a really good indicator that I can have that conversation about the next step. Going online, Glassdoor is a good one. Seek, they publish lots of salary data, just like your colleagues, your friends, your family, is just to get you into that preparation piece of practicing the negotiation. I think they're the sort of resources that you want to look for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zibby.
No problem. I hope
that's all. Yeah.
Lovely.
Awesome.
Perfect. Oh, wait there. I'm still sharing my screen. And over to you for what's in store.
Awesome. Thanks, Zibby. So we are Flint, Wellington, Zibby and I, although Zibby's over in Scotland at the moment. So I'm currently the acting chair. We've got a couple of really exciting events coming up in August to tie in with Welly on a Plate. We'll be doing an in-person event on the food and tech space. So watch out for some more comms coming out on that. And then on 9th of October, our probably most popular event across New Zealand is Get to Know a CXO. So we'll have CXOs coming from a whole bunch of different organisations for you to talk to and get to know. So that will be really exciting. And yeah, so we are also growing our Wellington lead team. If you want to be a part of Flint, that's a really great way to meet new people. We're all about inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. So if you're keen to know more about that, get in touch with Zibby, myself, or Craig, who is also on the call, and Craig is the CEO of the Tech Users Association of New Zealand. And Tuans also looks after us and the Flint team, so they're always there to help us with preparing for events like this and things like that. And yeah, finally, thank you all for coming. We'd really like to thank Sophie, not forgetting about other cities. We do have Flint across New Zealand, so yeah, if you scan that QR code, you can sign up to Flint wherever you are in the country, and we will be in touch.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and thanks, Eden. That was awesome. Really enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing more people at our events. So yes, have a great evening, everyone. day, evening, I can't work out.
Afternoon, yeah. Thank you so much,
See you
Zibby.
later. Bye.